Welcome to the exciting online live book launch. Well, it's exciting for me anyway because I've just published a book which I'm very excited about. I need to stop saying the word exciting. Excited and nervous is what I am. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm excited.
So it's called All Aboard, and I'm going to show you the route that my journey took. Please excuse my book plants here. These are some showing, I've got images through the text, which I'm going to show you a couple of them later. So that's what those book marks are for. But this is the route of the trip that I did on the Trans-Mongolian Railway. And I started in Beijing and went up through Mongolia and into Siberia, which is the whole eastern part of Russia, and then across to the western part of Russia, and the Trans-Siberian line ends there at St. Petersburg. And then after that, I went down around Eastern Europe as well. So it was a very, very long and exciting trip. And the really exciting thing is you just see things change through the window of the train carriage. Now, I have just realised, Facebook people, you're really lucky because I actually have forgotten to start the Instagram live feed, which Sarah has just reminded me because she went to check on Instagram. Instagram is a new platform that I wasn't on before. It's quite interesting because there's lots of really pretty pictures on there, and I've been posting a few of mine. So excuse me for a moment while I set up this live feed on here. Hello Instagrammers, is it live yet? No, I haven't pressed the button. It tells me it's checking the connection and that I am now live. Hello Instagrammers and welcome to the live online book launch. I'm just going to balance you somewhere where you hopefully won't fall down. Now, did I introduce you yet, Sarah?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my goodness, I'm so rude. Just lean this way slightly because the Instagram one is a slightly smaller window. So this is my friend Sarah, and she's being very helpful and has agreed to come in at the last minute to be my offsider and do things like check that things are working and stuff, and make helpful noises or ask
cups of tea.
Well, or ask questions if they occur to you. I don't want to put pressure on you, but if they occur to you. Yes, so here's the exciting book, All Aboard, a journey on the Trans-Mongolian Railway and through Eastern Europe. And I think I will start by giving you a reading from it. Now, the first thing I need to do is tell you what this is, which many of you will be familiar with the term yurt. The yurt is actually very slightly different, and the yurt is used in other places further west, still in Central Asia, but sort of further west. This is called a ger. It's spelled G-E-R, and that's the Mongolian one. And I will start by explaining that because I am going to give you a little book reading about the time that I got to go into a real nomadic ger. Now, one of the very exciting stories in the book is the story about how I got bogged in the snow for 5 hours and rescued by a nomad on a tractor. I don't want to give you too many spoilers for that now. There are a couple of spoilers on my social media pages. If you scroll back down, you'll find there's a couple of photographs and little snippets of that story. But I'm not going to tell that story now. I'm going to tell the next story, which is where the nomad on his tractor rescued us, and then he took us back to his ger to sort of sort us out. And his wife made us dinner, which was amazing. And so here is the image of them. So the tractor man who rescued us was called Yure, and that's his wife and daughter there with him in their home. And it was surprisingly spacious, but I shouldn't mention that now because I'm going to go in and give you the book reading, and then that'll tell you everything that I thought about it. So Oh, and I also have to give a disclaimer at the start, especially for Sarah because she is as well. I am actually a vegetarian, but I stopped being a vegetarian when I went to Mongolia because I was told that if you don't eat meat in Mongolia, you don't eat. Which I did actually meet a couple of vegetarians there though who were alright, but they didn't go as far as I did. Anyway, it ended up being a little challenging to give up years and years of vegetarianism to go to Mongolia specifically because they actually have really strong tasting and fatty meat, which was a bit challenging for me. And I was also, the other thing was that I had no leg to stand on when I was presented with offal. Like there wasn't anything I could do to refuse it, which was a bit challenging as well. But I won't tell you that story now because some of you might be eating. Although I will warn you that a question that I received in advance was asking me about the most memorable food. So that will probably pop up later in this stream. So maybe just eat before then. Just eat now when I'm telling you about this. If you're at a time of day in your time stream that needs you to eat at the moment. So I stepped across the threshold, feeling great excitement, but wasn't able to see anything at all at first because I had to stoop so low to get through the door. Once inside, though, there was more than enough room to stand tall. It was a lot more spacious than I expected, about the size of a small cottage. The first thing I noticed was that my feet landed on something hard. It was not a dirt floor. Actually, in many cases, a proper base is made for the gear and is used again the next year if the gear is put in the same spot, which they often are. I later realised that what I was standing on was lino. I moved around the wet and mud-covered people in front of me, offering them some lollipops I'd bought in Ulaanbaatar. The people were standing in front of the stove, which is right in front of the door. Tunga told me this morning that you should always go to the left when you enter a ger because there's a Buddhist/cultural thing of always going clockwise. It's something to do with energy circles. I hadn't known that last night, but fortunately I went to the left anyway, making a full circle over to the woman who was sitting on the bed on the right of the ger, rolling dough and making dumplings. I gave her a lollipop and Tunga gave one to her child. I was given a small stool to sit on next to a small table, and the woman poured us tea in small bowls. I was wary at first, but I found I quite like Mongolian tea. Tunga told me they salt it because of the dryness of the climate, and different regions have different levels of dryness and so use different amounts of salt. Fortunately, we seem to be in a wetter region, so the tea I've tried so far hasn't been too salty. It's white with milk and sometimes butter added, even though it's green tea. You can hardly taste the tea, actually. The flavour I was hit with when I first tried it in the road stop where we had lunch was rice. I remarked this to Tunga and she said, no, it's wheat. They fry some flour and then add tea and boil. It makes it more filling and warming for you in the cold climate. The tea I've had since then hasn't had flour though. So there I was in a real-life nomadic ger receiving tea from the tractor man's wife. Meantime, the tractor man was sitting in front of the stove talking animatedly and frying the dumplings as his wife handed them to him. They were deep fried in a large metal bowl which sat in the circular hole at the top of the stove. At other times there's a lid for it. I'll stop calling them dumplings now though because pasties would be a more appropriate word. When they came out, they looked a bit like battered fish or chicken fillets, long and flat, but it's dough, not batter, with a small amount of minced mutton inside, and I think a little spring onion or onion. They're called koshur. Now I will tell you a bit about the ger. The stove is always in the middle, closer to the door. To the left, if your back is to the door, is the man's side. To the right was a cabinet containing kitchen things, and then a bed, presumably the woman's. To the left was what appeared to be a chest freezer, but it was open and they appeared to be using it as a fridge. Then there was another bed, and then an altar to the shaman gods. Shamanism and Buddhism coexist peacefully in Mongolia, rather like Shintoism and Buddhism do in Japan. Tunga said it's because it's easy to make new gods in Buddhism, so you can easily worship nature and shamanism is a naturistic religion. In the back of the ger, there was a longish dressing table with a mirror, TV, some photographs and some beauty products. It opened up a bit like a sideways chest, and the family's clothes were stored inside. Sitting next to any ger outside, you will always see a solar panel and a satellite dish. The former is for power, the latter for signal. Gers have phones which connect to the mobile network via an aerial on the roof. A cord comes down into the ger and they can plug an ordinary landline handset in. That's what this family had done anyway. A phone was just what we needed to get us going. Because it was now dark and the roads muddier than ever, Butter wanted to phone someone he knew nearby to come and guide him, as the only thing worse than getting bogged in the snow in the daytime would be getting bogged in the snow in the dark. However, this family was having a problem with their phone, and it was currently sitting under the stove drying out. Earlier in the day, the mother had been outside doing something and the little girl had been alone in the ger. She had filled a dish with water and dishwashing detergent, and first she washed her hair with it, and then she decided to be like her mother and clean the ger. She'd cleaned the table, and then she'd cleaned the phone with sloppy dishwashing water. So now the phone was drying out under the stove. Once it had been there for a while, the men started trying to get it going. They took it all apart, wiped it, blew it, put it back together again, took it apart again. They were trying very hard to fix the phone. Meantime, everybody was talking jovially, and I had no idea what they were saying, but I was really enjoying just sitting there drinking it in. The woman gave me some yogurt, which was really nice. She'd made it herself. Every nomad makes all their own dairy products, quite a variety of them too. I don't like calling her the woman, but I don't have anything else to call her other than Ure's wife, which is equally sexist. I've realised that Mongolians don't put nearly as much emphasis on names, introductions or pleasantries as we do. The whole time I've been here, I've been introduced to no one but Butter and Dorj. Yes, I have the language barrier too, but I can point to myself and say my name, as so can they, I'm sure. But they don't, and I've seen no one introducing themselves to other Mongolians and no one shaking hands. They don't seem to say thank you very much either. I know the word for thank you, and I try to use it a lot, even though I mispronounce it horribly. But I don't hear others saying it very often. It's interesting. I think they're very reserved people, but also very kind. And they also expect kindness from others. So I think that they just go up to them and interact as if they already know them well. But Tunga said that it isn't kindness, it's their way of life. You have to be kind to people in trouble. You have to take them into your ger and give them tea and food and let them stay the night if they need it, or give them whatever other assistance they require, because next time it could be you who needs a stranger's help. These people travel great distances without any protection from the weather, either on foot, on a horse or on a motorbike. They don't carry anything with them. They often have to do this in extreme conditions of cold or rain, looking for a lost or injured animal. People do get stuck too far away from home, and it's pretty easy to freeze to death out there, especially in winter, when temperatures are sub-zero almost all the time. So people just help each other out. It's a way of life. Thank you. Here endeth the first reading. So that was just one that I chose about Mongolia. Obviously, Mongolia is a good thing to focus on, and it's on the front cover of the book. But the book is not just that. It's about the entire journey through the Trans-Mongolian Railway, which actually meets the Trans-Siberian line, not too far along the Trans-Siberian line. So there's also an awful lot in here about Russia and Eastern Europe, which are both very interesting places as well. Now, if anybody has any questions at any time, please feel free to post them on the comment stream, which I'm attempting to keep an eye on. I think it will pop up there on both of them, hopefully. I've also received a couple of questions in advance from my friend Robin, who is on Instagram and hopefully watching now. Hello, if you are there, Robin. So, you can ask them on her behalf.
So Robin wants to know first, what was the most memorable food item consumed on your adventures?
Okay, so I hope you're not eating right now. Okay, so, and her specific words were most memorable. It wasn't most delicious. So, most memorable food item consumed was this one. Now, you may be able to see that the chapter title is Goat Guts. Yes, the most memorable food item that I consumed on this trip was goat guts, and that was the one that I couldn't claim being a vegetarian to get out of. I vehemently and excitedly became a vegetarian again once I got into Europe, but it is a really interesting story, that one, because culturally it was really, really fascinating. This is a dish that they have at the same time of year every year in Mongolia. The goat had been freshly killed that day. It was a new spring goat. There was a photo I put on my social media the other day of a purple flower. Apparently the goats eat these flowers, and Tunga, my tour guide, told me that was very healthy for you because the goats had been eating these healthy purple flowers, and then you eat the goat. Personally, I'd rather cut out the middleman and just eat the flower, and I did actually take a subsequent photograph of after I did eat that flower in that photograph, and I did take a subsequent photograph of it with bits missing, but I didn't post that on the beautiful photo feed that I try to create on my social media pages. But yes, so the goat guts were actually really, really challenging. Thank you for asking that question, Robin. Read the book for the full description, but I also don't want to freak anyone out who's watching this feed. But it was everything. It was stomach, small intestine, large intestine, heart. The heart was the best bit, actually, which doesn't mean it was good. It just means that it was less gross than the rest of it.
It would be all muscle, so it wouldn't be any fat or
It tasted like iron-flavoured meat, and which wasn't amazing, but it was just less gross than the rest of it. Next question.
So Robin wants also to know, has this experience changed how you see the world?
Yes. That is a really interesting question, and I could answer it in a number of ways, but what jumps to mind first is because I was travelling through the former Soviet countries and other former communist countries, but particularly the ones under Soviet influence, having grown up in the West, you just sort of imbibe various ideas about that. And World War II as well, you just imbibe, in your upbringing and your education, you're given certain ideas. One of them was that World War II started when Hitler invaded Poland. What I did not know before doing this trip and before visiting these places is that Hitler and Stalin used to be allies, and they had an agreement on what was called their spheres of influence, and which was basically, I'll invade this bit and you invade that bit, really. It was they both were empire building, wanting to invade lots of countries, and they had this agreement called the Nazi-Soviet Mutual Non-Aggression Pact or something, which was meant to be that they weren't meant to fight each other, but they each agreed to invade certain countries. And Poland, as a large country, they actually both invaded at the same time from both sides, the Soviets from the east and the Nazis from the west. And I wasn't taught that when I was growing up. I was taught World War II started when Hitler invaded Poland. And one of the points I make in the book when I learned this, so Hitler in the end turned on Stalin, stabbed him in the back. The rest of us are really bloody lucky that happened. Otherwise, there's no way the Allies would have won the war. So that was one really interesting thing that I learned. The other stuff is just viewing people. If you go anywhere in the world and just observe the way different people live, and that they're still ultimately normal people, the same as you are, who go to bed at night and have breakfast in the morning, which is a very leveling experience, no matter what creed you're under and whether you live in a portable home on a step in the middle of nowhere, or whether you live in the center of a city, or we're all just humans. But I did find it particularly interesting to go to what used to be behind the so-called Iron Curtain and just sort of see and learn about the history there. Was really, really interesting. Yes. What? Now, we'll do another question. Yes? Yep. Good.
If you were...
Uh-oh.
I think Instagram
I'm
just
so
fell
sorry,
over.
Instagram.
Literally.
You fell over. I'm so sorry. My phone fell over. Okay. Here we go. Just balancing it. Sorry about that, Instagram. Instagram has a thing where it only will go live from a phone. So that's why you're on the phone. Yes, next question.
All right. If you were to do it all again, would you go about it differently?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not necessarily. I was quite pleased with the way I did it. I wish I could have spent longer in some of the places, and particularly Mongolia. I would... Mongolia is a huge country, and I really only saw a really tiny part of it. One part that I really wanted to see was the Gobi Desert, which I did get to see because the train goes through there. Yeah. And I got to see both the sunset and the sunrise over the Gobi Desert when I first arrived in Mongolia from the train, which was very exciting. And just looking out and seeing the desert was very exciting and mesmerizing. But the time of year that I went... it wasn't possible for me to actually travel all the way there. So the way I actually organised the trip, I had heard that it can be kind of difficult to get visas for places like Russia, and I'd heard that it was therefore a good idea to book on a tour. But I prefer independent travel. I don't like going around with a tour group everywhere. I don't think it doesn't have its place. I have done tours and have enjoyed them. But overall, I like to sort of plan things on my own. So I went through this company in Melbourne called Passport Travel, who they book the itinerary for you, but you're not actually with a group, you're by yourself, but then you get picked up by tour companies in the different places where you get off the train. And they take you to accommodation and they take you on tours if you wanted to do a tour in that place. So they had several Mongolia tour offerings, one of which was Gobi Desert, which I really wanted to do and couldn't because of the time of year, because of the snow. And it was only May. It wasn't like it was technically the month before summer, but it's just such a place of extremes of the environment that it was so cold that there's obviously areas that you can't pass through that time of year. So I think that's my only regret, really. Other than that, I think it was really good the way that I did it with that independent travel company. Yes.
So tell me, how long, what span of time does the book cover?
It's about 3 months from Beijing to Prague.
Right.
If you took the railway, either the Trans-Mongolian or the Trans-Siberian straight and didn't get off, it would be about a week.
Yeah.
But obviously it's more fun if you get off and explore.
Yeah.
And I also did the Eastern Europe travels after getting off the railway as well. So yeah, ended up being, can't remember exactly, but about 3 months go to work. You can check me on that actually, because they are written in as journal entries. So, here we go. So it says here that it finished on the 25th of July and started in May. 4th of May. 4th of May is the first entry. So, yes, about 3 months, just under.
And the longest you spent in any place?
Ooh, the longest I spent in any place. That's a good... Well, apart from 50 hours on the train, was the longest straight on a train. But I think Moscow, 4 days, was the longest in any one place. Oh, and Krakow in Poland, that was 4 days there as well. But Krakow, that was my friend Alma had joined me just for that little bit, about 2 weeks she was with me. And there are a lot of places near Krakow that you can go off and see. So we weren't just in the city. We went off to Auschwitz and we went off to There was the Vialishka salt mine, which is a very interesting place. Ginormous block of salt under the earth, and you can go down like 1,200 meters down into the mine and go walk through salt tunnels. Whereas Moscow, I was just in the city, huge city, so many interesting things to see. Unfortunately, I also had a tooth infection and was flat on my back, sick with a fever for one of those days, which was disappointing. But so I got to see a lot on the other 3 days.
So you had antibiotics or something that you carried
Yes.
with you, and that's...
Not that I was carrying with me, no.
Oh, okay.
My travel medical kit is not quite that exciting, but I managed to get into a dentist in Moscow, which is amazingly easy. You don't need an appointment, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and I got right in to see the dentist, and I had this sweet young tour guide translating for me. And the dentist in Russian said something that sounded like abscess, and it was like really, really scary for a little while there until I heard the translation, which was, it could become an abscess. And I was like, oh, thank God it's not yet.
Yeah.
And then she gave me antibiotics, and then, I was okay after that. Now, I want to just quickly mention the fact that I actually have this book running with 2 different publishers at the moment. And I may even look at a third in the future, but I'm not sure yet. Being self-published, you've got the freedom to do that. But what I am directing people to do for the print book is I'm directing them to lulu.com. And the reason I'm doing that is because they are environmentally friendly and responsible. And to the extent that if you go and search them on Ecosia, Ecosia is a search engine that I like to use because that's environmentally friendly as well. Ecosia is the search engine that plants trees, which is great because we need trees to stop climate change. So if you're not already using Ecosia, you should Google Ecosia and then never Google anything ever again. Just use Ecosia. But one of the great things about if you use that is it pops up with a little green leaf next to search results that are companies that they have verified as being environmentally responsible. So things like they use solar power, or they plant trees themselves, or there's all different ways that they quantify that. But so Lulu is one of those good companies that does all that stuff, and it's also a really good quality book that they create. I have got the black and white images in there, which it does really help if you've got. You probably can't see that very well, the book quality on here, but take my word for it. So yes, I'm directing people to them for the print copy, but they don't do so well with ebooks. So I have got the ebook on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. They're the world leader in that. And Kindle Unlimited is a thing where people can actually pay a subscription, I guess like people do for Netflix for TV, really. And you just got unlimited ebooks, and then the content creator gets paid an amount for whatever you view, or you can just purchase it outright. So that's on Amazon for that reason. And for that reason, I also do have a paperback version on Amazon because that just sort of made sense to capture passing trade on Amazon. But if you have a choice, I am directing you to Lulu for the paperback and Amazon for the ebook. Now I have another fun story for you, which is a book reading, but it's not from this book. It is from my next book, which I am working on at the moment, which is going to be about Japan. I used to live in Japan. I was teaching English to primary school kids. I've got so many travel journals. This is my box of travel journals, and this is actually not even including the ones that I took out to show you tonight. This is all aboard. This is what went into this current book. So that is, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 6. Oh, some of them are a little small and falling out, but yeah. So that's nowadays when I take a trip I do it digitally because I actually literally got RSI typing this up, literally. But anyway, now I do it digitally. But I've got all of these travel journals that I'm going to make into more books in the future. And the first one is going to be about Japan. And this is a fun little story that I'm going to tell you. And it's about the first time I went to an onsen, which is a Japanese hot spring. And of course the tradition is, well, in fact, you have to bathe naked in these things, and everybody does that up and down the country, and it's all perfectly normal to them there. But when you've never done it before, I was a little bit nervous about that. And I actually wasn't intending to on that particular day. So I was with a group of friends who were also new English teachers there, and we were at a water park. We were in a city called Iwaki, which is in Fukushima Prefecture, southern Fukushima Prefecture. And one of Iwaki's big ticket attractions is called Spa Resort Hawaiians, which is an indoor water park, a very good one. Interesting name, Spa Resort Hawaiians. You find things called, things like that in Japan. And obviously it's Hawaiian themed, this indoor water park. Great fun, great water park. And so you're in a bathing costume for the majority of the water park, and that was my intention going. But then my friend Rachel sort of pulled us aside into the onsen. There was this little onsen attached to it, which she was already experienced in onsens by that stage and thought it was a great idea. And I then came to think it was a great idea later. But this was my first experience, which was very nerve-wracking at the start. And I hope you enjoy the story. We went back into the change room where the naked people were and started freaking out. We went to the loo first, which I thought was pretty funny because when we were in there, Mel asked me if I was getting changed in my cubicle, which she probably realised was a silly proposition as soon as she said it, because what's the point in getting changed in a cubicle if you're just going to walk out of it butt naked? It's not even changing, is it? Our changing was done in the most exposed part of the change room due to the fact that we didn't want to hire lockers because all of our stuff was already in hired lockers in the main change room back at the entrance because we were in a water park. For people in this situation, there were provided pigeonholes for wet bathing costumes in the most exposed part of the change room. But come to think of it, there wasn't much point hiding over near the lockers anyway, because again, all you're going to do is walk out of it butt naked. Mel and I stood in front of the pigeonholes, attempting to psych ourselves up to take off our clothes. But before we knew it, Rachel was stripping, and I had to stop staring at the pigeonholes and stare at the ceiling because I could no longer look anywhere else safely. Somehow I managed to strip off without seeing anybody else's naked bits, including my own. But that was about to change. Let's walk in side by side, said Mel, and so we did. That was a very good idea. In fact, I did a very good job of not seeing my friends naked throughout this whole thing. First stop was the showers, by which I mean seats and small buckets to throw hot water over you. That is the traditional way to do it in a Japanese bathing house. But I was pleased to find that there was also a shower hose which I was able to hold over my head the whole time, which was most certainly not the traditional way to do it. Unfortunately, once I finished my shower, I realised that Rachel and Mel had finished earlier than me. I'd been too scared to look behind myself to check while I was showering. So, not really wanting to have to search for my friends in a room full of naked people, I had to quickly hurry in the direction I thought they had gone. Finding that they were not far in front of me was both a good thing and a bad thing. It meant I found them easily, but it also meant I had to walk all the way to the pool, a few paces behind them, trying not to look at their asses, and failing.
Very good. And I've heard you tell that story before, and what I'd like to point out to everyone, and probably most people know this, you know, because presumably all the people who are logging in are quite possibly people who know you, but who
Not
knows?
necessarily. I don't know.
True.
I hope there's some people who don't know me logging in. If not, you should just tell everybody you know, and then more people who don't know me will come find me.
So Carrie's a really good narrator. I've heard lots of funny stories, and it's a very natural thing to happen that when you read things from a script, it kind of sounds a little stilted when you read out from a book. So I'm hearing the difference between you reading from a page out loud to when you narrate a story naturally, and I think that what people will get from the book is because you also read in your own head as well, and I guess if people do know you, they could well be reading it, hearing your voice. I do that when I read.
I have been told that by someone who helped me check it and read it over.
Yeah. So they'll either, if they don't know you, they'll read it in their own voice, and it'll flow much better than that. Not that it's a good story. I'm just saying, if anyone's listening thinking, oh, it sounds a bit stilted, or if they know you, they'll hear it in your voice, and it will flow much better. And I think that that's just something to bear in mind for me, because books, it's a bit like, books are always better than films, and reading books is also better than having it read out to you.
Yes.
So that's the point I'm trying to get across for anyone who's listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but it is very conversational language as well.
Yeah.
Because it's just my journal that I wrote while traveling, and I hope that that's easy for people to read and digest and enjoy, and to feel that you were there too, particularly at the moment with not being able to travel
vicarious,
because
vicarious travel.
Yes, so now you can have vicarious travel by reading the safe pages of a book, which you don't require any vaccine passports or anything to pay lots of money to access.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple of... Oh, we've got one question about Lulu from Lindsay. Hello, Lindsay. So, yes, she is correct that it's Lulu is the spelling of Lulu. lulu.com/shop or something, I think, is where you find the Lulu bookstore. But my link to buy my book is on my social media pages.
Of which you have many. I'm impressed at your social media expertise.
So, well, I'm developing this expertise now. I'm always happy to accept advice, because I hope I'm not doing it wrong. But yes, Carrie's Travel Books is on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest.
And
also there is LinkedIn, which is just under my name, Carrie Risley. If you're on LinkedIn, you can find Carrie Risley on there. And I'm really enjoying doing the social media, actually, because I get to use all my photographs. You know when you go on a trip and you take a zillion photographs and then you don't use them for anything and you barely even look at them, which is really sad. I really love taking the photos. I enjoy photography. So it's been really cool to be able to just use those and just post a bunch of beautiful photographs, and to go through, and I put little snippets from the book on there as well, but also really pretty photos, and I'm going to keep doing that. I don't like hassling people to buy things, so if you follow my pages, like, there is a little bit of that this week because the book's just been released, so I put up, oh yeah, it's available now, here's the link, but mostly...
Are we frozen?
Oh, I wonder whether Facebook has frozen. I don't know. Instagram's still going anyway, and we're nearly finished. I'm about to finish it off, so we'll be right. Yeah, so it's good to... I'm enjoying the social media thing. I think that was all I wanted to tell everyone, and we're out of time, so I'd better stop. And stop boring you. But yes, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I've been really blown away by the support from people, like, and people just being interested and wanting to hear about this trip and wanting to read it. So
I saw a comment from Leslie earlier to say that Leslie bought your book, I think, at dancing last week.
She did.
And her husband has already pinched it, so she hasn't even got to start reading it yet, because Alan's reading it. So it's a hot property.
I'm glad Leslie and Alan are enjoying it, and I hope the rest of you are, or will, when it arrives, or whenever you get to get it. So yes, thank you so much.
And buy extra for Christmas presents.
Oh, Christmas!
Because who doesn't love a gift that you can give, that you can also then share, and like, it's environmentally friendly. It's something that
family can go travelling together.
Yes. So I love receiving books as gifts, and I love giving books as gifts. So Christmas is coming.
So I just said that I don't usually hassle people to buy things. So she's doing it for me now, obviously.
But not mine, so I can do that. If it's mine, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. I'd probably be like that too. But follow me on social media, because it's fun, because there's nice pretty pictures and I enjoy that. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so grateful to you, and yes, I'll shut up now and stop rabbiting on, and I'll figure out how to actually... Oops! I'm so sorry, Instagram, you fell down again. I'm so sorry. Bye. Bye, Facebook. Thank you so much. Now I've got it. Oh, here it is. It's end live video button. Thank you so much. Bye.